Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary. As we're between podcasts this week, we thought we'd throw in a one-off special bonus episode, you lucky people. I'm your host Mark Decano, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
We want your reviews. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review and preferably 5 stars. And if not, you can always email your review to us at stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk or through our Facebook page or Instagram account. And links to all of those are available on our website www.truecrimediary.co.uk. And in appreciation of every 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out in a future episode. So the date we're looking at this week is 11th of June, and in 1962, 3 prisoners of the Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary made an audacious and daring escape from their cells and from the island. None of the 3 were ever seen again, but the escape from the inescapable prison became legend, and the 3 men remain on the US Marshal's wanted list to this day.
I thought it was 2 of
That's
them.
me too, yeah.
In film terms, are we talking about Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, he did escape from the prison. You're thinking of the movie Escape from Alcatraz. Sorry, Clint Eastwood. Yes, indeed. That is the very escape to which we...
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm sure there were 2... Well, it's a film, but I'm sure there were 2 in that.
Were
Sure you got that right?
There were 2 brothers, yeah.
Okay.
So there's John and Clarence Anglin, the Anglin brothers, and the Eastwood character, that was Frank Morris. There was a 4th man in the escape as well, named Alan West. So there were actually 4 people in the plan. But on the night of the escape, Alan West couldn't get out of his cell, so the others left without him.
Smack, I'll open it. Don't you know how to open the door? Just put your hand on the knob. Turn it to the left. Now pull it toward you.
That's the first roadblock, really, to escaping a prison. Can you get out of your own cell?
I can't remember if that was a thing in the film where someone was left behind. It's quite good for a film, so I suspect.
Yeah.
Can you remember if that was in? It's quite a good little plot tie of, oh no, he's whatever, can't...
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember. The only thing I can remember from the film is the paper mache heads.
His spoon was too blunt to dig his way out.
Yeah.
And the spoon. Yeah.
What does Alcatraz mean anything? Does it translate?
It does.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
It's Mexican for the name of a bird that lives on the island.
Alcatraz, all the birds.
I can't remember. Is it pelican or puffin? I've forgotten which
all
it
the
is.
Puffins.
Are there puffins in
I keep
San
saying
Francisco?
all. I keep saying all. It's not all at all.
Yeah, it means pelican, or
Pelican.
it means
Pelican, excellent.
Manny, look at this. Pelican, fly. Come on, pelican.
It means strange bird. They take it to mean
The
pelican.
whole thing is strange bird. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Wonder when it was named pre-prison times, I presume.
It was Alcatraz Island before it was Alcatraz Prison. It's called the prison because it's on Alcatraz Island, not because they
right.
built
Sorry, it's not right. Okay,
And it wasn't built to imprison pelicans.
Not officially.
They might have been vicious. And
A vicious gang of pelicans.
robbers. They used to rob people,
The Pelican Gang.
and they stored the jewels in their
bill.
bill. Yeah. So what are we talking about this week? Are we just talking about the history of Alcatraz? Are we talking about the history of Pelican Island?
Well, we're talking really about the escape. So I can tell you a little bit about those involved. So Frank Morris, he was sent to Alcatraz because of his many escape attempts. In fact, the reason most of the inmates were at Alcatraz was because they repeatedly tried to escape or escaped from other prisons.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Weren't they, him and his brother were both pretty good at doing that, though, weren't they? They were
Yes.
quite successful at getting out of other prisons.
But they weren't successful at getting caught again.
No, that's true.
Okay.
They weren't successful at remaining.
If I was, what would I be? Governor of California? Is that?
Yeah.
I'd have employed them as consultants.
Yeah.
If they were, you reckon they were like really good at it?
Yeah, that's what you do, isn't it?
Boy, you got it all wrong. I don't give jobs, I hire men.
Mind you, I don't know. Why did they go to prison in the first place? I mean, don't say it was 59 murders or whatever.
No, it was all of them. It was robbery or it's like bank robbery.
Or tax evasion.
Yeah, well, if you're going to spread our wings to other inmates, then yes. But for the guys involved here, it's bank robbery. Alan West was in for car theft.
Really?
Seems
Is that it?
quite extreme,
Yeah.
isn't it? Steal a car and end up in Alcatraz.
So again, it's because he was trying to escape all the time, so they
Right.
put him in the inescapable prison.
Therefore, utilise his skills. Nicking a car. I mean, basically, you should have said, have a scan of the priz and let us know if you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And he would have said yes, up until the
There's a lovely big room
bit.
down the end of the corridor. If you can help us keep everybody else in, you can have that room.
Yeah, I think it's a certain type of character that you might be able to reform enough to give the advice. But I think for the most part, and certainly for the part of these kinds of people, every time they even released out of prison and they're rehabilitated, so to speak, they immediately go back to do crime. So I think if you get in a position of trust, it wouldn't do you any good.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Not great rates of recidivism.
Right.
You are the living proof of the low quality of work we demand of our employees, and a bad example to the younger employees who figure that if you can get away with it, they can too, and they don't have to be any better than you are, which is zero.
Yeah. So Frank Morris, he was very, very intelligent. He apparently tested in the top 2% of smart folk.
Smart people.
He was sent to Alcatraz because of his escape from other prisons. He was in and out of incarceration since he was 13. He escaped. He was doing a 10-year stretch for bank robbery in Louisiana State Prison when he was rearrested for burglary after he escaped that prison. So he broke out, and a year later he was rearrested for another charge. He'd already tried to do a burglary.
Yep.
He went into Alcatraz in January of 1960. John and Clarence Anglin did repeated break-ins since they were 14. They were sentenced to 35 years in 1958 for bank robbery. And again, because of repeated escape attempts, they were moved to Alcatraz in 1960. Clarence went in 61. And Alan West, who was put in there for car theft in 1955, he was transferred to Alcatraz for, again, escape attempts in 1957. He was 28 at the time that he went in.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Gang of Four.
You'll probably come into this, but there was a reason. It was an island in the sea, the bay, I suppose.
Tectonics.
Yeah.
That's usually the reason.
But meaning to dissuade escape attempts.
Yeah.
To me, I've been in San Francisco and seen Alcatraz. I haven't been on Alcatraz.
Yeah.
To me, I could swim that. But
You reckon?
I'm happy to be told that it's, I don't know, quite cold or choppy.
I've seen Alcatraz from the ferry as well.
Have you?
Yeah. And I swam across the Thames at Richmond Bridge, and I don't think I could swim back to the land from Alcatraz.
So what you're comparing is a 30-metre flat stretch of tidal water, or non-tidal water, to the sea. Is it like the Pacific, or is it just the bay?
Yeah, it's a sheltered bay, but
Is
it's
it?
got apparently quite a nasty undertow. And
But that's under.
Yeah.
You're on the top.
Oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, forget it. It's also about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 12
55
in centigrade.
degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, right,
Yeah,
okay.
So it's not it's not the warmest spot.
And it's probably always that kind of at its warmest.
Yeah,
12.
pretty
So
much,
the
yeah.
shock would be
12 degrees. Well, that temperature in air is, I find, quite balmy and pleasant. What water at 12 degrees, I should think, would be a little chilling.
Chilling, yeah.
yeah.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming.
You're talking
swimming.
about 2 miles to shore.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was shorter.
Okay.
than that. It
It's
looks
about,
shorter.
I think it's maybe a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles, depending on which direction. But it's
Surely it's the same distance from one side to the other as
Yeah.
it is back again.
It's longer.
no,
when you're
depending on which direction from the island. If you swim north to
Alaska. Miles there.
if you're swimming north to Angel Island, that's about 2 miles. If you're swimming west toward the Golden Gate Bridge, it may be a mile and a half.
Is Angel Island another island?
Another island, yeah.
I mean,
bigger island.
is it? Okay.
So
Yeah.
named after the angels that live there.
Yeah.
I suspect, because I know about escaping from prisons and swimming on massive stretches of water.
Of course you do.
I think that Angel Island is probably the better option. I wouldn't be surprised. Golden Gate Bridge is swirly
Swirly.
and currenty, and if there's probably a big tide. What do you call it? Tide.
Like the tide.
That's what they call it.
It's probably quite dangerous there.
Yeah.
but
So it's tidy like the tide.
you must
and-
have a flat kind of calm section. Surely.
I reckon the fourth guy couldn't make it across because they ran out of goose grease. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah,
They
yeah.
wouldn't have
You
done
know,
that,
you
would
had a
they?
good coat of goose fat on you
I know,
to swim
yeah,
that.
I don't think they would have.
Not
done
a
that.
lot available in prison, I imagine.
In the
I
film,
imagine goose was on the menu.
Yeah.
in the
Looking at
film,
the menu
they,
was pretty good, but
in the film, they put air in their like trousers after taking them off, obviously, to create a buoyancy. And then the credits, and they were never seen again, or something. It came up, so that was a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you about the escape. It's quite ingenious.
Oh yeah, actually tell us the facts.
I shall tell you what's true, and then you can compare it to Clint Eastwood.
To what I've just
enough
made
of
up.
our hypothesis. Let's get on with the facts.
I can tell you first and foremost that it took about 6-7 months of planning and
Did it?
preparation.
Wow.
And they must have had a fair bit of collaboration. 6 or 7
Yeah.
months, you're either doing it very, very quietly, or
Yeah.
you're probably getting some help from other inmates.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the details, but what immediately it reminded me of is the inmates at Colditz who built a glider in the attic of the castle.
Wow.
You know, and I
incredible.
appreciate that they never actually flew it, but the
Still
whole
did it. Yeah.
It managed to do that. That would have taken like, forever.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of that because it's so amazing what they did. So basically, I mean, you mentioned digging with the spoons. They used spoons and some saw blades that they'd managed to get
Oh.
to dig their way through the vents in their cells to make the vent holes larger. They even made an improvised drill from a vacuum cleaner motor. Now, it turned out that wasn't incredibly effective and it was a bit noisy, so they didn't use it too much, but this is the kind of ingenuity that they were utilising. They made dummy heads, which I mentioned, from paper mache. They used concrete dust from the vent holes that they were digging out.
Yeah.
They painted it with paints from the like the prison workshop
Yeah.
thing, and they got human hair from the barber shop. They put that on to make it look realistic.
Wow.
They were meant to be pretty realistic, these heads, weren't they? Like, realistic
Yeah.
enough for a guard to be in the same room as it and not know.
Yeah, I mean, they were utilised in the evenings, and obviously then the night of the escape. So the guards are just walking past, they see a head of hair
Yeah.
sticking out. They've obviously just moved on without noticing. But if you look at the actual heads, like pictures of them available on the internet, they don't look all that. But I imagine, that, given the circumstances, they were convincing enough. That's all they needed.
And it would
to
have
do.
been dark and
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
suppose if you're a guard walking down the corridor looking into cells, you're expecting to see
hair.
a lump in the bed and a head with hair on it.
Yeah.
And something vaguely facey.
Vaguely
and
facey.
It's got to look really outrageously non-human for it to probably, because you're not expecting it. You're expecting to see the usual pattern.
And you're
body in
also
bed.
you're also probably not really looking
No,
much, are you?
No.
You just
no one can get off here anyway.
lump in bed next.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can tell you that the Anglins named their heads,
Oh, yeah.
their paper mache heads. One was called Oink and the other was called Oscar.
Yeah.
Which is quite fun.
I'm guessing the reason for the first name.
Yeah, well, one can surmise. The Anglin brothers' cells were side by side, and West and Morris had cells side by side quite nearby. So behind their cells, there was an unused utility corridor. So basically, they broke into the corridor. Now, from there, they climbed up to the top level of the prison cell block, and there was, again, an unused part of the prison. So they basically set themselves up a workshop in the prison.
Oh, okay. So this wasn't on the night. They just found other areas that were unused that they could do stuff unnoticed.
Yeah. So the idea was that basically they put their heads in the bed, and then in the evenings, after they were all locked in their cells and before lights
Right.
out,
So it wasn't just for that night. They used the heads a lot.
they used them a lot. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So they would go through the vent opening, replace the vent opening, go up to the workshop, and in the workshop they made life jackets. They made a rubber raft. This rubber raft was 6 foot wide and 14 foot long.
Wow. Wow.
So if anything, they were aided by the notion that this was an inescapable prison, because that sort of breeds a kind of complacency.
Exactly.
That no one's really, thinking anyone could possibly escape.
Yeah.
Why? Because of it's marketing.
Inescapable. Yeah.
It's just marketing to say, "Oh, you can't escape
Yeah.
from this."
It's the Titanic.
So everyone,
It's the
so
Titanic
everyone,
of prisons. Yeah, yeah.
everyone says, "No, it's impossible," and therefore they don't try.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
We don't need to worry about people escaping because they can't.
Yeah.
And there had been a number of escape attempts beforehand, and in almost all situations, the people had either been immediately recaptured or had died in the attempt.
No one has ever escaped from Alcatraz.
and no one ever will.
Right. So it wasn't necessarily marketing, but you could still, if you put that into people's minds of you cannot escape from this, there'll be an element of who will go, yeah, I'm going to try, but there'll be a large proportion who'll say, oh, okay, then I won't bother.
Yes, not worth
And
it.
also in the guard's experience, it's never happened. It's never gonna.
Yeah, exactly right. So they made this massive raft. They basically sewed all the seams together, and then they used the heat from the pipes to seal the seams.
God, they must have been hot.
Yeah, I mean it was incredible. They stole a concertina from another prisoner
To pump it up.
to use as a bellows to pump
That's
to inflate
brilliant.
it.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty clever, isn't it?
I mean, it's
I'm guessing
ingenious.
did you say it was 18 feet long?
6 foot by 14. Yeah.
So that's, it couldn't have just. I can't believe that was just for the 4 of them. Unless they really thought that sea was going to be quite rough, and you need,
Well, yeah, I think they knew there wasn't going to be a great crossing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There might have been a kitchen and various rooms.
Had a theatre, ballroom,
game,
3 restaurants,
games,
Provisions for a few nights.
downstairs.
Yeah.
It was fully kitted out.
So, picture the scene. Now, it's the night of the 11th, about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
They put their heads in the bed. Everyone's confined to cells.
Heads in the bed. Yep.
They break through the vents into the utility corridor. They make their way up to the workshop. They gather up all their gear. West struggling to get out of his cell. So one of the Anglin brothers tries to kick it in from the corridor. He can't break through.
Yeah.
What's basically happened is that he'd overcut the vent and it was falling out. So he'd used basically a makeshift concrete to hold it back in, and that had hardened. And basically he'd reset the vent.
He'd made his cell safer than
It
it
made
was
it,
before.
it made it less penetrable.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
So they couldn't get out. So he went back to sleep. He knew he wasn't going to go anywhere. So the 3 of them, they make their way up to the workshop. They gather up all their bits and pieces. They break through a ventilation shaft onto the roof with this raft and everything, yet not inflated yet. They run about 100 foot across the roof. They climb down a vent pipe about 50 feet over 2 12-foot barbed wire fences.
Wow.
With all this equipment.
With all that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was there been like
I'm
searchlights and people
No,
watching? Oh, right.
nothing.
Okay. So they weren't dodging that.
They went to an area that they found a blind spot along the shore that was basically out of the guard towers and the controls. So, yeah.
Nobody's around. It's naughty time.
with 2 12-foot barbed wire walls and carrying an inflatable boat.
Yeah.
They must also have been armed with several very successful puncture repair kits.
Yeah, one would suppose. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a miracle they got as far as they did. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's quite a feat.
So they made their way down to the shore. They inflated the raft with the concertina. I could just imagine the sound.
This must have taken ages, this, but...
Absolutely. They reckon that they must have left about 11, so you're talking 5-6 hours by the time they actually left the island.
Sure.
We're here. Let's just hurry up and do this.
And away they float towards Angel Island, about 2 miles.
Yep.
According to West, who was interviewed afterwards, the plan was to cross Angel Island, swim across the Raccoon Straits, which is a very short piece of water, into Marin County, and then they would steal clothes and a car and make their escape that way.
But...
So there were no reports of any theft of clothes or cars for the following 2 weeks after the escape. So if they used that plan, it didn't work.
Yeah. Or they found other means of... Or they got across and found, oh, there's a car with the keys in it. Let's just...
Yeah.
Mind you, that's still theft, I suppose, but... I mean, it could... Everyone's always assumed they never made it, but... I don't know. But.
Well, the FBI, who were investigating, obviously, in 1979 they closed the case and they concluded almost immediately, even though they investigated until then, that they must have all died in the water.
Right.
On the 14th of June, so third full day after the escape, the Coast Guard found a makeshift paddle. They'd made some paddles out of like wood from the workshop.
Yeah.
Found that floating in the bay, and they also, on the same day, another boat found a wallet which had been put inside a plastic bag, and in the wallet were basically all the names and addresses of the Anglin's relatives. So they assumed, well, they're not going to leave that. They must have found, and that's their possessions floating in the bay. A week went by, and then they found raincoats on the beach and a life jacket made from the same raincoat material, and they presumed that this had come from the raft they'd made out of.
Seems fair
many
enough.
raincoats. The life jacket was found literally yards offshore by a prison boat.
Yep.
So they're assuming that after 2 weeks this stuff's found floating in the bay, they must have died in the bay.
Don't know really. I mean, they might have just chucked all that stuff in as they
could be a
climbed
decoy.
ashore.
All your raincoat materials, you're not going to take them with you.
Hmm.
Because they're not even useful as raincoats.
No.
Yeah.
Life jacket, you don't need that, do you?
No.
I don't know. I mean, I
The
suspect
wallet
we're
is
not...
a slightly
Well, that's a bit weird
sad
because
note.
Yeah.
he probably had that to literally list all the addresses that he
Yeah, but
wouldn't remember.
could have genuinely fallen out of the boat. It might have been rough water and fallen out and lost it without realising.
Could have been, yeah.
I mean, I suspect we're not cracking the case by going, yeah, actually, they probably could have survived. Yeah, I think they have. And they probably died within half an hour. But
The minute they put their feet in the water.
ooh, blimey, that's cold, isn't it?
Let's go. Oh, it's freezing.
I have a picture now of them going down to the water and then running quickly back with their toes in the air.
That is freezing. What time of year was it?
Have you been
It was June.
It was June, so
Yeah.
it wasn't the
Late
warmest
spring.
time for the bay, but it was it probably would have been pretty warm in the air. But the sea or the ocean is the warmest in something like September or something. It's had a whole summer of being heated, kind of. But it still would have been cold, wouldn't it?
Yeah. There's been lots of conjecture about whether they could have made it if they swam. I would say that in December of 1962, another inmate called John Paul Scott, he escaped and he swam from Alcatraz to Fort Point, which is the southern end of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I say, about a mile and a half, maybe a little bit more. He made water wings out of rubber gloves to make his escape.
Yep.
Now, he was found the next morning on the shoreline, and he was suffering from exhaustion and hypothermia.
Sure, yeah.
It was December, not June.
Yeah.
You know, he was went sent to hospital and then basically straight back
Of
to
course,
Alcatraz
yeah.
again. But I can tell you that route is currently used every year as part of the annual Escape from Alcatraz triathlon.
Yeah, that's quite a good idea. Yeah.
So,
Just as well they closed it because people are now training to escape.
well, exactly. I mean, if people
That's
are
true.
paying admission to line up on the side of a boat, jump in and swim, then it's clearly doable even for the
Also, they're happy
recreational.
if it's apparently dangerous. They're happy for people to do it. They would have signed off so much insurance that they all died this year. You don't have to give out the medals.
The winner is our only survivor.
Yeah.
The second annual triathlon will not be proceeding as planned due to the annihilation of the previous.
Were all
entrants.
eaten. So it's definitely a doable thing, but that's for trained athletes, I suppose, or as opposed to prisoners who haven't been outside for several years.
Well, there is that. But the Anglin brothers as well, they were known to be very, very strong swimmers. When they were youths, they would swim Lake Michigan while there's still ice on the surface, so it was freezing cold.
Right.
So
that's
they were
interesting.
swimming in cold water was something that they were very adept at.
Right.
So it's possible that they'd retain that even through their
Certainly
incarceration.
increases their chances.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure Morris would have fared quite as well.
Right. How did Adam West? No, not Adam West. What's he called? Alan West.
Alan West.
Nearly. Did he just squeal upon? Because he's in the. He could have just kept quiet and
Maybe
said,
he got the nice room at the end of the
I'm
corridor.
I'm not part of that gang. No, it's fine. Or
Well-
did he just go?
He claimed that the whole plan was his idea.
Right.
Of course.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, we're dealing with the superior intelligence.
So the reason why we know all this information is because of him.
Yeah, he came up with a whole story afterwards, what the plan was and everything else.
Did he come up with the idea of the boat and the stuff before or after they were found?
I know, yeah. I mean, he could...
Because there's always the possibility he fabricated the entire story from the fragments that he was told.
The life jacket and the 14-foot... He could have literally made all of that.
I would have been going with them if I hadn't have sealed my own cell up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he
made a life-size Titanic.
He was obviously the damage to the cell showed that he was part of the conspiracy because he had the same damage to his cell. Yeah. But he told them the whole story, or he told them a version of the whole story, in return for which he didn't face any further charges. He wasn't prosecuted for the attempted escape.
Okay.
Was his face the one that was called Porky? Was it Oink?
Porky? How did you get that?
Oink. Porky.
I thought it was oink.
Oink. Oink. Like a pig.
I thought it was
sound
oink.
a pig makes.
I thought it. Oh,
he
sorry.
squealed.
I thought it was oink, like a.
Somewhere at the bottom of that mess, there's a gap.
I don't think that's American.
An oink. Well,
parlance.
no,
that's an English thing.
I don't know. Yeah, is it?
That's definitely an
Oink.
English thing.
That's
Oink.
an oink.
I thought you said oink, not oink.
For the benefit of our overseas listeners, an oink is a churlish lad.
It's a tyke.
Yeah,
a young tyke.
He is. He's a
cad.
Ruffian.
A bounder.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. Oink. All right, fine.
Oink.
I'll allow it.
Most gracious.
Thank you, Carol Vorderman.
For the benefit
Another Anglo-centric reference.
Not for anything particular. It's irrelevant to the entire discussion, but just thank you, Carol Vorderman.
Yes, thank you.
I've met her.
Thanks, Carol.
I've met Carol Vorderman.
Okay. Is there anything more to that?
Not really.
No, it's written all over your face. That's all we need to know.
Yeah. She's wearing well. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well done.
And she's good at adding.
Adding.
Yeah.
So, if the Anglin brothers are such strong swimmers, etc., etc.,
yes,
could they have made it?
Yes. Don't know.
Well, I can tell you, there's been obviously things being as they are. Whenever something is unresolved, people say, "Oh, I saw them.
Yeah, sure.
They are alive and well."
But did they need to swim it in a boat?
Well, there's a few things there because number one, they were in a raft, and even if the raft capsized and they had to swim, could they have swum? Yeah, possibly, probably, especially if people are now doing it for fun.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But there's another thing as well, because in 1993, a man named John Leroy Kelly confessed on his deathbed that he and an accomplice were waiting in a boat in the bay.
Yep.
And they fished the three escapees out of the water and helped them escape. Although he also then said that they had double-crossed them and killed them and buried them at the side of the highway in order to get some $40,000 in money that had been given to the families for the purpose of the rescue. They took money to get them out and then they killed them and took the money.
Oh, okay.
That was his confession. Now, in and of itself, this being a criminal's lie.
Yes.
But that does corroborate a story at the time, because they said that the boat that they were in, they'd freshly painted the boat white a few days before they picked them out of the bay. Now, at the time, there was a off-duty policeman named Robert Cecchi, and he was sat in his car above the bay about midnight. He reported at the time that he saw a white boat in the bay with no lights on, and they were shining a torch onto the water. The next day, when he heard about the escape, he reported that, and he was questioned apparently for days by the FBI. And he reported in 2016 to the reporter Dan Noyes that the FBI told him, "Let's make this go away and just bury it."
Don't tell anybody.
So maybe they were fished out of the water after all.
Right. But the general consensus of the legend is that they just, drowned, or they never made it.
The FBI closed the case in 1979, as I say, saying that they drowned and they were swept out to sea. The US Marshals have still got a warrant for their arrest because they took over the case from the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
Because of fugitives,
Yep.
That warrant expires in 2030 when all three will be over 100 years old.
Well, they'll be in the clear after that. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm 101. I'm
I'm
fine.
assuming the FBI have bothered to follow the money, as they say, because if these guys got the $40,000,
Where did that money come from?
Yeah, I don't quite get that either.
No.
From the families of the convicts.
But if the
Allegedly.
Well, they just clubbed together.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Can you chip in?
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely.
I don't
Three
understand
families?
how killing them meant that they still got the money.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't have all the details of that
It's a
story.
flaw in the.
But like most of the stories that float around, they are, you know, you can ask questions enough to poke holes quite quickly.
Yeah.
There's a similar story whereby there's a man who claimed, named Fred Britzi, who claimed that who knew the Anglin brothers. He claimed he saw them in Brazil in 1970s. He had photographic evidence of
Weren't
it.
they staying at the hotel owned by Lord Lucan?
Yeah, and Elvis played there every night. It's possible, but he had photos of them, and the family said it looked like it was them, but they were wearing sunglasses and things in the photos, so it was hard to make up 100%. But like anything else,
It's a bit of a long shot.
Yeah. But
It must have been them, because it was two guys who looked nothing like them. Who wore sunglasses.
Two guys in sunglasses.
That proves it must be them.
I mean, Alcatraz as an institution is fascinating. I can tell you, some of the former inmates, obviously, it's hugely famous because of people that didn't want to escape. Yes.
Yes.
So who do you know who spent time in Alcatraz?
We all know Al Capone.
Al Capone. Yes.
Do we?
The great tax evader.
Didn't know that.
Oh, he was there. Oh yes, definitely.
Al Capone meet Alcatraz. That's what. If I was the judge, I would have said that.
Quite
when
right,
I was giving him the guilty verdict. Al Capone meet Alcatraz.
That would have been great. That would have been the front page.
I know, yeah.
That would have been the
I would have been the
headline
headline maker.
The New York Times.
I wonder what Al Capone is in Mexican.
Pelican killer.
The Pelican.
Pelicant.
Pelican. We've mentioned someone already who was one of the earlier inmates in the previous
Oh, so we
podcast.
Have we?
Yeah.
In another episode.
Yeah,
Another
famous
episode.
rap star.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
He was
So
there.
hang on, which one?
George Kelly Barnes.
That's right.
Right. Oh, okay.
He was in there.
Seems quite a long for him, and for Al Capone. Seems quite a long way to send them in the sense of geographically. Haven't they got nearer prisons?
Well, Whitey Bulger was head of a Boston crime gang.
He was,
which is the
yeah.
other side of the country. He was.
He
in
went there,
Alcatraz,
did he?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was originally Alcatraz was a fortress. It was built as a Civil War fort to
Lookout.
command the bay. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So, because of its isolation and its, basically you can't get to it and therefore can't get out of it. It was for isolation, the inescapable prison. That was the point.
Yeah,
of it.
sure.
So the most dangerous criminals or the people who tried to escape a lot, that's where they went. So mob bosses like Whitey Bulger, Mickey Cohen, they were incarcerated there. You've heard of the Birdman of Alcatraz.
Yes.
Robert Stroud, he was there, obviously. But he wasn't a Birdman when he was at Alcatraz. He was called the Birdman before he went to Alcatraz.
Oh, that's funny.
He was called the Birdman of,
Wherever he went, yeah.
but nothing.
The Birdman of nowhere.
We can't put it. Finally, we can add a thing on the end.
He reared birds when he was at Leavenworth.
So he was the Birdman of Leavenworth.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to. He wasn't allowed to keep birds at Alcatraz.
Right. The not rearing
Ruins
Birdman
another movie.
of Alcatraz.
Yeah, the Birdman of Leavenworth.
The unlicensed Birdman of Alcatraz.
Also, there's Arthur Barker of the
Arthur Barker?
the Mar Barker gang.
Right.
He was there. He was known as Doc, and he was part of the Barker Carpis gang. So after the fall of the Barker gang, the Barker Carpis gang took over. So it was one of the brothers, Arthur, Doc Barker, and he joined up with Alvin Carpis, also known as Creepy Carpis.
Right.
Karpis was the longest-serving inmate at Alcatraz. He was there for 26 years.
Wow.
Until Senator Bobby Kennedy closed the prison in 1963.
Did he?
It was only running for 29 years. So,
Yeah.
so he was there for almost the entire history.
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy closed it, did
Bobby
he?
Kennedy closed it because it was expensive. I mean, the mainland prisons would cost like $4 a day per prisoner, and Alcatraz cost $10 a day per prisoner.
Right. Because of the tolls.
Well, the food was
because of the ferry
pretty
tolls.
Yeah. I can tell you that it's an interesting aside. There's, the title Public Enemy Number One.
Yes.
That was made up by J. Edgar Hoover as a publicity stunt for the FBI. There were 4 people who were given the title Public Enemy Number One: Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Babyface Nelson, and Alvin Karpis. 3 of them you've heard of. They were all shot dead by the FBI in
I don't
1934.
think Kennedy can count. There can only be one number one.
Well, yeah, I think each one took over from the last.
Inherited.
So Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Babyface Nelson, they were all shot and killed by the FBI in 1934. Alvin Karpis, the one you haven't heard of,
Yes.
he surrendered. he gave up in 1934 again. That was the end of the age of the big gang names.
Okay.
And he surrendered, and the FBI was so surprised that he surrendered, they were sure they were going to kill him, that nobody brought any handcuffs.
Oh, okay.
So they had to tie his hands with a necktie
Wow.
to take him in.
That's quite good, isn't it? Right, okay, here's another tangent. You know the film The Rock?
I'm aware of it.
Was that about a specific escape, or was that just a made-up load of rubbish?
That was a made-up load of rubbish.
Was it?
In
Okay.
every sense.
Was it?
It just happened to be set on The Rock.
Was it as made up as the accent that Sean Connery affected throughout
In all his movies.
throughout that movie? The Rock. The Rock. Pretty sure he played it as an American. He wouldn't have played it as a Scotsman, would he?
No, he was supposed to be, I think, English. Certainly
Was he?
British. Maybe Scots.
That was all just rubbish, was it? Just a
Yeah.
film. I don't know.
It was based. The premise of The Rock is that a bunch of like Navy SEALs or something steal a
Sorry,
bio
I forgot
weapon.
about that bit.
So yeah,
I thought it was just.
it was it was nonsense.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I completely forgot it was a complete army
yeah.
attack.
No, it was complete horse water of the highest order.
Sorry, yeah. Rubbish. Don't know what I'd forgotten about that bit. I thought it was just him foiling.
It's a story of Sean
foiling.
Connery breaking into an abandoned
him
prison.
foiling an escape or something. I've forgotten it was this all-out attack of something. Strangely enough, I haven't watched it since.
Yeah.
Hang on. Right, I'm gonna guess when it came out.
Oh dear.
And I'm going to say, on the basis that I probably watched it, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw it at the cinema.
God, jeez.
Well, that was brilliant.
Ed Harris, Nicolas Cage,
I'm going to say 93.
1996.
Oh, was it? It was quite late, that.
It's too late.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's annoying. It's not that annoying.
That's Michael Bay.
Oh, God. Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
He's bloody
He's got a lot to answer for.
Who else was in it?
I tell you who's in it. Michael Biehn, who was from Terminator and Aliens. He's a great actor. He should have been in the Nicolas Cage part. For my money.
And Ed Harris, of course.
Ed Harris, who's got the best "oh shit" expression in acting history.
And
Lost a lot of money.
Leo McGarry's in it, from West Wing.
Music by Hans
In
Zimmer.
the shape of John Spencer. Oh, was it Hans Zimmer?
Produced by
I used to do
Bruckheimer.
his website.
A lot of
Is
money.
this all
tied
off
up.
your head? Top of your head?
Yes, off the top of my head.
Very good. You're good at producers of rubbish films.
Yeah, not good ones though. That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've discussed over the course of this episode, just Google it or something. You can see daily true crime updates on our Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. You can email us or you can support the show with a PayPal donation. And links to all of those are on our website at truecrimediary.co.uk. Don't forget to send us a review or post one in your podcast service if you can, and all 5-star reviews will get a shout out on a future episode. Join us next time when we'll be similarly discussing and digressing on another event in true crime history. Until then, my thanks to Jed and Rue. My name's Mark, and we'll see you on the next date in our True Crime Diary.